Već neko vrijeme svjedoci smo snage prirode, posebno one uzrokovane klimatskim promjenama. Posljednji tragični primjeri su poplave u Španjolskoj. Nalazimo se u Veneciji gdje ćemo jedan na jedan od generalnog direktora Corila konzorcija Pierpaola Campostrinija doznati kako ovdje upravljaju vodama kojima su okruženi već stoljećima. Dobrodošli, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Za početak, možete li nas upoznati s konzorcijem kojem ste na čelu?
What is the consortium?
Our Corila is an association between universities and national research bodies dedicated to scientific research on Venice. So we are providing scientific knowledge to the decision maker, to the institution which take decision on Venice. The purpose is that this decision should be knowledge based. So we are providing the integrated scientific knowledge to the of the science to the decision community, the political community which take decision on Venice.
I kako to za sad ide?
So far?
Our history started 25 years ago, and actually in these 25 years, a lot of things occurred. Finally, I believe this was a positive experience because it is needed an integrated approach for the safeguarding of Venice. This is expressed by the national law. We set Venice as a national primary national interest, but also the interest should be supported by an integrated knowledge. So not only the disciplinary approach, but an interdisciplinary approach was what we provided. In some key moment, it was quite useful to the community.
Kako je Venecija kroz stoljeća uspjela ukrotiti more? Ili bolje rečeno, jeste li ga ukrotili?
I mean, the problem occurred here many years ago, since the beginning. Just to build a city inside the lagoon would have been considered today an insane idea. So it is an impossible city built in a difficult environment. But from these difficulties, the Venetians of the previous centuries took these difficulties as an opportunity and turned it into an opportunity. So it was the first country to be defended from the attack, but in the same moment also being on the sea, they allowed Venice to communicate with the entire world known at the time. And so the power of Venice growth together with the defense from the difficulties. The defense was against the river, the sea and the man, as our big engineer Cristoforo Sabatino said in the 16th century. So the battle against the sea was conducted in reinforcing the littoral island defense, first with wood poles put for defending the inhabitants of the littoral islands. Then it was transmuted into a seawall made by stone, an important stones carried from the Istria, from the other side of the Adriatic Sea, in order to realize what we call murazzi, which is the main defense. But the water could enter through the inlets. And therefore, in some sense, the completion of this defense was made only recently, since the year 2020, when the mobile gates of Mose were installed and they were able to raise up only when needed to defend the city. From the river, the work was done for 500 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So we are not anymore exposed to the flood from rivers.
Okay.
However, the main problem in that moment was that the river would carry sediment, which would have silted the lagoon. So the lagoon was protected not only from the flood, but also from the siltation, as occurred in other Adriatic Sea lagoon, in Ravenna, or in other part, because lagoons by per se are ephemeral configuration. So So Venice, in some sense, is between land and sea, was able to take out the, not to become completely land, so maintaining this transitional status between land and sea, but now is also defended from the sea, which of course raised since the city was founded. So today is 1.5 meters. If we go higher than if we go back to the time when the San Marco Basilica was built. So
Metar i pol.
yes, so the sea level rise is not something which occurred only in the last year. The difference is that the speed of this rising changed, but some millimeters per year was the growth also in the previous centuries due to both the global sea level rise and also the subsidence of the land in this particular place. So we are experience of sea level rise since some centuries.
I will say just
Reći ću samo Acqua Alta i spomenut ću 12. studeni 2019. Prije svega što je Acqua Alta i što se dogodilo 12. studenog 2019.
Acqua Alta is simply what can be translated as flooding of the pavement of the city. In Venice, everybody goes on foot, and therefore, when the pavement is flooded, you have to wear boots or you cannot walk in the street.
Koliko Acqua Alti imate?
That is the problem, because these events in the history was occasionally, but the increase of the number of flooding occurred in the last 50 years of the previous century, and mainly in the first 2 decades of the new millennium. And so instead of having, let's say, 4, 5, 10 Acqua Alta per decade, so means once every year in average. So it was an event not rare, but not so frequent. In the growth of the Acqua Alta events during in the last decades rised up to 90 times in the decade from 2010 to 2020.
Ali nisu iste. Nije svaki Acqua Alta događaj sličan drugome.
No, because the Acqua Alta is simply the rate is
rising the
everything is governed by the tide. The tide is bidiurnal, so 6 hours goes up, 6 hours go down. This is due to the astronomical tide. But in the northern Adriatic Sea, this is enhanced by the configuration of the Adriatic and could be enhanced by meteorological condition, like the wind, Sirocco wind, which flow along the axis of the Adriatic Sea, which is from southeast to north. And arriving to the north, the tide rise up, no? Like when you move a basin, you have the double of the wave generated at the top. So, and the water can go out of the basin and can flood Venice in this case. So these events are mainly due to the storminess, so are meteorological events, but as much as the average sea level is risen, you have a more frequent possibility. Is a probabilistic approach, but at the end, the number of times of flooding was very, very high. This means that these occur not only, as I mentioned, the problem for walking, but especially also in the structure of the building. We have to consider that the water is salt water. So the salt water touch the bricks. The bricks absorb the water, and when the tide go down, they are not under water anymore, and so because the water evaporates, but the salt stay inside. So salt crystallizes and breaks. It's like a cancer inside the bricks, the plasters, and the marble as well, depending on how much the porosity of the marble. And therefore, in some cases where normally the Acqua Alta was mentioned in San Marco, where the Acqua Alta was never touched the marble because they was not built, but so low at the beginning, but due to the sea level rise, during some events we have also the damages. So we had an accelerating aging of this ancient marble. And 5 years, go back to your question, 5 years ago, I remember very well that
it
moment.
Was
Prije 2 dana je bila godišnjica.
5 years.
Yes, anniversary.
Yes, it's becoming history because now this event will never again happen because of the Mose. But in that moment, the event was very severe. Was the highest due to meteorological condition, quite strange for the moment, because climate change make also the modification in the way this phenomenon occurs. We have like a cyclone, a tropical cyclone or typhoon with a very strong wind, which happened suddenly. So the forecaster do not understand what was happening in time. And so we have a sudden rise of the level. I was responsible of the maintenance of the Basilica of San Marco, and it was a very frightening moment because in that moment we had an invasion of water into the crypt, over which the body of Saint March is conserved. So we had the fear to lose physically that part. And we have several damages, but luckily the water level stopped the rising at a certain moment. But it was really, really bad for the city because of strong winds, waves inside the city. High water means not simply, let's say, normal flooding, but you have more than 1 meter. So you cannot go out even in Via San Marco. You cannot walk even with a booth, high booth. So it was really, really frightening. We had a lot of damages, and unfortunately the Mose was not operating. So we understood in that moment that the protection was absolutely necessary. And what is exactly what we realized because the 3rd of October 2020, so after 1 year after, let's say, we have the first rising up of the Mose. And so from that moment on, we can say the city is safe for flooding.
So you are saying that
Dakle, kažete kako je nemoguće da se događaji poput ovog prije 5 godina ponovo dogode.
Are impossible to happen again.
No, the event itself will happen again. So we had also other events like that, and due to the climate change, this kind of event will occur more often. But the consequences of this event will never hit again in the same way the city of Venice, because we are protected. So the sea level will rise due to the storms, but in the city we will not have any more flooding.
Tog tipa poplava, mislim.
That kind of flood, but in any case, we will never, I mean...
Koliko dugo ste sada sigurni s Moseom?
How long depends also on the way the world will decide to decarbonize their economy, because the mechanism is well known. If we put greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the climate change will continue. So we are going to speak in these days in Baku for the COP29 for maintaining the 1.5 centigrade as maximum increase of temperature. So the speed will depend, so the time will depend on global decision. It's not up to us. But in the worst case, we will have some decade to maintain the same configuration. I will say, to be clear, Venice will be never flooded again. So we have 40 years, like 50 years, maybe 70, maybe 80 of calm. Okay. In these ways, in this time, in this period, we should think what will happen in the next century, in the next period, and we should prepare ourselves in order to cope with this challenge. So most probably we will change the way we will protect, but I'm sure that the Venetians, but also the Italy and the world will continue to defend Venice. So the defense of Venice will change, but Venice will be safe in any case. So in this time, in some sense, Mose gave us the opportunity to save time. We bought times. We bought time in order to think properly in the future. But the point is that we are thinking about the future in a safe condition. So we are not struggled by the emergency. So we have not the tide like this.
What are you doing now? Is there some
Kakve mjere poduzimate sada? Postoje li recimo neki podzemni objekti za prikupljanje kišnice ili slivnih voda?
Rainwater or something else?
What we have to complete the scheme, the design. So because the scheme is to raise up the pavement up to a certain level, over that level to close the gates so we have not completed yet the raising of the pavement of the city.
Okay.
Kako to podižete?
Some 10 centimeters. So the idea is to take all the altimetric level up to 110 centimeters. Simply the restoration of the banks. I mean, somewhere you have to take up 10 centimeters. In some other. So where the channels are closer to the pedestrian path, you rise up a bit, and so there cannot be overtopping. I say a bit because over that level, in those events, the Mose will close. So we will be safe. To raise up, you raise up close to the channels, but you have also to avoid that the water can filter, can come up from the drain pipelines, which collect the rain. This is what we are doing in San Marco, for instance. San Marco, which is the most ancient and therefore also the altimetric level lowest in the city. So it is not enough to raise up the border of the island, but it is also necessary to put some valves in the pipeline which collect the rainwater and to have some pumps which can push up the rainwater when
kada I gdje želite.
Exactly. So this is already done near the Basilica of San Marco, because we did it since year 2019, and the glass and the Basilica itself is protected. In the meanwhile, we complete the intervention on the whole island of San Marco. Is protected by means of glass barrier, which are fixed, very transparent. You cannot see through. You see through, and so you are not disturbed in the view of the beauty. But when needed, you put some doors, in any case, against the marble of San Marco will never go salt water.
Znači Venecija nikada neće potonuti.
Venice will never sink. The point is that we have to innovate all day by day. So Venice is a candidate to be the place where there's a debate how to cope with sea level rise, because the point is that the sea level is not occurring only in Venice, is occurring anywhere in the world, so in many coastal cities. Venice today is the most protected.
Yes.
Može li se vaš model upravljanja vodama primijeniti u drugim gradovima i mjestima? Bi li on funkcionirao negdje drugdje?
Functional anywhere else?
Yes and no, in the sense, yes, as the approach and the know-how, because we did a number of interventions, very different from each other, from the raising of the pavement to the which is quite simple technologically, and the other way for protecting the glass barrier. So a number of interventions, the intervention on the islands, and the MOSE. So there are different technologies that have been used, different approach. The know-how can be shared and transferred. Absolutely, yes. No, because there is in coastal protection there is not a one size which fits all. No? So you have to adapt. Each solution is dedicated to a particular place. But with our knowledge, we are able to share the knowledge. And when you share the knowledge, you also learn something in any moment. When you teach, you learn as well. And so this has been already done. So we have been to be in the most far place where I went is in the Caribbean, where there are islands, and islands is very small islands. The place is limited, and they do have a cultural heritage UNESCO protected site, which are on the sea level, and they simply do not know how to cope with that. So I think we know. We can share the experience. We can help you in protecting the cultural heritage of the UNESCO site protected in Antigua Island. Where they have a so-called Lord Nelson's Dockyard, which is a site which have some from the colonial time of English port. Inside the island, they have some elements, so we send there some engineers and some university professors of arts in order to help them in identifying the problems and also find the solution for the sea level, for the adaptation. Because it is clear that in any case, the sea level will continue to rise for the next 200 years. We cannot stop it. So we have to adapt, to protect and to adapt. The mitigation is in the case of sea level rise only to speed, not to have not too high speed, because if the speed is too high, you have less time to protect the society, your goods, and therefore it is necessary to mitigate the sea level, the speed of sea level rise, but sea level rise will occur. And so the adaptation is necessary. So from the example that we had in Venice, we are speaking about a sea flood, but also the river flood can be, there are similarities, and can be also used like a new paradigm for all the cities in the world. This is exactly what we are going to say in the next week in Baku at COP29. I will go there and I will present to the world this example of Venice, a fragile city which became really protected for a further protection. The protection is in any case, nothing is forever.
Yes, of course,
but we gain the time necessary to do this, and this we would like to do it with the entire world.
Radite li to uz pomoć europskog novca ili sami?
I mean, to be clear, the European money was not used for defense of Venice. The defense of Venice, since what we call the special law for Venice, which occurred in 1973, was paid by Italian taxpayers. So presently, the European money is used in the projects, of course, but there are a small part of the European money which is very useful for sharing of experience, for meeting people, also for having you here, no? And this is absolutely necessary in this Interreg program, which is Italy and Croatia. No? We are sharing the experience. These are paid by European money. And this money is absolutely necessary, but it's a small part. The infrastructures in Venice is not paid by the European money. It could be in the future, and most probably in the future. In any case, the European money should go also for not only for also for the protection of this. Of the environment which are subjected to level rise, for the adaptation measures that are needed in any European state for the climate change adaptation.
Vidite li da će se nešto poput toga dogoditi u budućnosti na europskoj razini, da će biti novca za Veneciju?
I hope this, I believe and I hope that this will be the case because one euro spent in prevention save €7 in a disaster recovery. So we have to the approach, the world approach and the European approach should go more to the prevention of disaster. So what at Europe and international level is called disaster risk reduction. There is a United Nations office for this. Venice is part of the network of cities belonging to this effort, which share this effort for becoming more resilient. And we are part of this network of the United Nations for having a more safe place. For doing so, it's not only necessary to some will, but we have to put some resources also into, both from public and also from private. So we
have all
because it is the challenge of the next century, the adaptation to climate change. So of course, our economy, and this is a big effort of the European Union, which has been underlined again by the new Commission, by the President Ursula von der Leyen. So the clean economy is absolutely necessary, but we have also, in the meanwhile, to be able to protect ourselves, to protect the life, the economy, the environment, and also the culture, because the culture is an important engine for the society.
In your opinion, should humankind...
Po vašem mišljenju, što bi čovječanstvo trebalo učiniti za prilagodbu na zasad ne tako lijepu budućnost kad se govori o klimatskim promjenama?
I mean, climate change is a fact. No? So this will change the way we have the relationship with the environment. I mean, but there could be changing in agriculture. No? For instance, the wine will be cultivated at a higher temperature and higher...
Kako možemo promijeniti naše razmišljanje?
So the changing means that we have to think the opportunity is to have a more fair transition. When the moment of a transition can be unfair, somebody is suffering, somebody else is gaining. No?
Yes.
Unfortunately, with the wars, there are people which are suffering very badly, and some other which stay better after, maybe also after. But the real challenge is to have a fair transition. So we need to have energy for everybody, not only for some countries. So we have to find a way to distribute better, because otherwise our society will not accept this changing. The changing which are necessary, there are many, the list is quite long, but should be supported by more fair. I believe that the people are understanding this fact, because it is a global fact which occurs everywhere for everybody, will help in having a fair transition.
Gospodine Campostrini, hvala vam još jednom na vašem vremenu i predstavljanju Venecije kroz stoljeća u samo 30 minuta.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, very welcome. Thank you very much to you.
Hvala i vama na gledanju.